Welcome to the eHunter podcast, everybody. We're glad you're joining us for another podcast. I'm excited to have this podcast and share it with you all. We sure appreciate you guys and your support for us over here at eHunter with the website, the podcast, social media, everything that you guys are doing to support us. We really appreciate it. And we hope you're enjoying all the content that we're putting out there, especially these podcasts. So on today's podcast, I'm going to have Dr. Preston Ward join me. So Preston is a physical therapist, and he has a platform called Mtn Physio, which is Mtn Physio. You've probably heard of him and seen him on social medias and things like that. He's focused on hunters and outdoorsmen and improving our physical fitness and ability to be in the backcountry like we want to be. And so I'm excited to talk to him. Not many of you know this about me, but by trade, I'm actually a nurse. My day job is as a nurse. And so I've had many physical therapists that have worked for me, and they've helped me with many injuries and things like that, whether it be related to running or hunting or whatever, just getting old. And excited to talk to Preston about some of those things that come up as hunters and how we can work through them and how him and his company can help us be, more fit and more ready for the grueling mountains that we attack when we're hunting. And so I'm excited to kind of geek out a little bit on healthcare with him and get his thoughts on some things and share a little bit about his company. But we'll have him join us here in just a second. But really quickly, wanted to send a shout out to our sponsors that make this whole thing possible: Vortex Optics, OnX Maps, Manscaped. Make sure you're using the code eHunter over at Manscaped. That'll get you 20% off. Guys, their products are amazing. Absolutely amazing. So is OnX. Love OnX stuff. And also Vortex. I'd be lost without Vortex. Spent so much time behind glass and got some new stuff coming out that we're using the Vortex optics for. So stay tuned for that with some of the videos that'll be coming out. And also Bow Hitch. Make sure you're using the code eHunter15 over there to get yourself 15% off at Bow Hitch. I'm getting ready for TAC and been using my Bow Hitch as I've been preparing. So just wanted to tell them thank you and appreciate them. And so let's go ahead and get Preston on the phone and we'll start our podcast with him. So how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks. Sorry for being spacey and everything else for getting this together.
Dude, it's a crazy world. Like trying to connect to do stuff like this is so hard, especially when you got the real job to go to and then to do this afterwards. It's tough.
It is tough. It's awesome though. I really enjoy podcasts, and they keep getting better. So this one should be the best one yet.
Heck
right?
Yeah, that's right. I like your mentality there, your attitude there. That's how. Yeah, absolutely, it will be. So,
no, but it is a lot of work though.
It is. So do you have like a normal job and then you do this on the side, or is this your full-time gig?
So I work up at the VA so I have an appointment there, and I do some training with the orthopedic residents up there, so up at the hospital, and then I do Mtn Physio like 35 hours, almost 40 hours a week, honestly. Between all the marketing and everything else, it's like 40 hours. It's a lot. It's a lot. So
wow.
But I do both those.
Which VA do you work at?
At the Salt Lake VA.
Salt Lake? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
which is cool. It's fun. But yeah, the goal and intention is I should be there close to doing Mtn Physio 100% full time here soon. So it's good. That's we got some cool things in the works.
Uh-huh.
Really cool ideas and partnerships and stuff like that are going to be awesome. It's just a matter of putting the time in to do it all. So we're just busy.
Yeah.
And then like tonight, like I said, I left the VA. I was up there working with the residents and students, and then went and saw 2 or 3 patients tonight, and just barely got home, walked in the door, and now we're doing this. So it makes for long, busy days, but it's so fun. I love it.
It does. I hit record before we even jumped on, so we're recording all this, by the way, which is
cool.
awesome. I love capturing this and kind of getting the raw stuff, and I want this to be that way, just a fun conversation, have fun, get to know each other a little bit. So
yeah.
So the first I heard about you, a good buddy of mine in a company that sponsors the podcast, which is Sneak Tech Boots.
Yeah.
Jeff Barlow. He's like, dude, you got to get with Preston. He's an awesome guy. You guys are gonna hit it off. So I'm a nurse and have
Okay,
worked
nice.
ER and home health, and now I'm currently actually
Hmm.
doing hospice. I don't really do much nursing anymore. I'm more on the business side of it, but. He's like, you guys could just talk healthcare and, all this stuff all day long. So I've been
Yeah.
pretty stoked to do this podcast and get to know more about you and Mountain Physio and all that. So I guess before we jump in, because I'd love to unpack a lot of the stuff that you kind of brought up there, because I'd love to know more about Mountain Physio and kind of what plans you have in place and stuff like that. But before we get to that, please tell our listeners a little bit about you, as far as like maybe your background, like in hunting, and then like how you got into physical therapy and where you've been in physical therapy. Just kind of give us an overview of Preston.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, so let's see. I grew up in Salt Lake and really was hunting from honestly as early as I can remember. So, gosh, 2, 3 years old. I actually remember some of my earliest and fondest memories. I guess maybe not fondest, but earliest memories would be we have horses and mules and everything, and we're up at the cabin, really, and not necessarily any fancy cabin, but more like a trailer,
Uh
and
huh.
just sitting on the hillside, freezing my butt off in a sleeping bag that my dad put me on the back of a horse, and so I'm sitting on the back of a horse in a sleeping bag, just like, anyways, but just things like that, and watching my dad and my brother go out and get spike elk and all sorts of things, just like the typical Utah thing. And so that's kind of where my hunting started, I guess I'd say, really from as early as I can remember. And then I went through the whole schooling thing and everything here in Salt Lake, and let's see,
Did I read that
decided
you were a University of Utah guy?
I was a University of Utah guy. Yeah,
Attaboy.
absolutely.
Attaboy.
Yeah, graduated. So yeah, University of Utah guy. My wife actually is BYU girl. So
Oh man.
so
Oh.
it works out. So it's fun. And so I went to the University of Utah, graduated there with my bachelor's in exercise and sports science or kinesiology. Then I did, let's see, then into my graduate school, received my doctorate in physical therapy, graduated in 2016 with that. And then I was accepted and I did an orthopedic residency. And so that was a year-long residency. So then became a board. Then I did that, and then I studied a year and became a board certified orthopedic specialist. So
Oh
that
wow.
takes me to roughly 2018-ish. And I've always had the kind of entrepreneur mindset of I want to do my own thing. And I remember I was sitting in, for many of you listeners that probably know, Wild Arrow Archery,
Oh yeah.
a great pro shop here in Utah and in Centerville. I was sitting there and I was talking to, I think I had just graduated or I was about to graduate. Oh no, I was about to graduate from residency and sitting there and this couple older guys, I mean, not even really older, like 50 years old, just started talking about, man, I got to give up archery. I think I'm going to pick up a crossbow. Um, when I heard that, I got to pick up a crossbow, and there's nothing wrong with shooting a crossbow, but man, archery is so fun and
Yeah.
just the typical traditional bow and arrow sort of thing. When he said, "Got to pick up a crossbow," I think I'm done shooting. I hurt my shoulder. This light bulb like went off in my head. Like there should be a physical therapist treating athletes, what I call mountain athletes,
Yeah.
um, treating bow hunters, treating archers, treating hunters in general. And so I started doing some basically research and there wasn't anyone. And so I'm like, well, that's me. Hello. And so I had the skill set from being an orthopedic certified specialist and everything. And so I started up my practice the next spring. So in 2019. And ever since then, it's been just flying at the seat of my pants, I feel like, and just busier and networking. Today, I had a business meeting, kind of a really good friend and partner. And then earlier this week, we got back from Total Archery Challenge in Montana and had
Nice.
another business meeting that we're working on. So it just is super cool to see the excitement around it. And I think there's always been that. You have the people like Cam Haynes that are super influential,
Mm-hmm.
Dan State in Elk Shape, right? Those guys that are into fitness and stuff and hunting. And I think that really kind of changed a lot of the, just the outlook of hunting. I mean, when I was hunting, like I said, 20 years ago, right? There just wasn't it. We would hunt on the weekends and we'd hunt the opener, and that's basically it. And I think you had those diehards, but it just wasn't necessarily at the forefront. And now it seems like if you're not putting in the work 365 days a year, you're being lapped, you're being, whatever it is, you're just not ready, it seems like. I think a good example of that is even Total Archery Challenge, and those 3D events have really been a huge thing for the industry of people realizing, hey, I need to shoot more. But where I'm at, and I was just working with someone tonight, he's like, I haven't shot my bow for a while because it hurts. I go to these events, I try to shoot more to prepare for them, and it just really hurts. And so they call me up and I go do evaluations. But anyways, that's a hopefully I'm not rambling, but that's kind of a fun little backstory of how I came up with the idea. And yeah, today, like, have a awesome network and stuff, and a lot of good partners, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of friendships. Gone to a lot of 3D events, and so yeah, good stuff.
I love it. It's funny, like, as you're talking there, it's interesting how hunting has changed. We've talked a lot about this on our podcast as far as like, it used to be the flannel blue jeans and you just kind of ride in the truck and drink Mountain Dew, and that's hunting, and it's like, it's changed over the years, and it is kind of thanks to the Cam Hanes and, some of those guys that have changed it. Like, wait a second, we really, if we're athletes at this, we really can be better hunters. We can perform better. We can be more successful. And with all that comes more fun. And, when I started studying, or, because I always kind of study the people that I do podcasts with before I do the podcast. And I started studying what Mtn Physio is. And I was like, why hasn't somebody thought about this in the past? And it's a funny thing that it came up, but so I love to golf too. And I was talking to this old guy this week, and kind of as I was preparing for you and I to do this podcast, actually I was talking to him yesterday, and he's like, oh, I can't golf anymore because, my back hurts and stuff like that. And I thought, man, like, I think that's exactly what you're trying to accomplish in the hunting realm, is find those guys that maybe can't do this or that or the other, or, even, younger guys who are struggling with something, and be able to, and guys and gals, sorry, ladies, I'm not leaving you out, but, help improve them physically. Mountain Ops is great. It does some great, it does wonders for you and whatnot, but there's something to be said about, healthcare and therapy, true physical therapy, and what it can do for hunters to help them. I like what you said, mountain athletes, to help them perform. And, I'm the same way. Like, I'm such a better hunter, and I enjoy it a lot more, if I'm fit. So I'm a marathon runner. I love to run marathons. And so, when I'm preparing for a marathon, I'm so fit. I can run up and down mountains. It's easier, and I feel better, and I feel more successful, and the hunt is a whole lot better. And, as I kind of study Mtn Physio, it sounds like really that's what you're trying to accomplish is to just improve people's hunting experience.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love how you say that, hunting experience, because that's really why we, again, sitting in that archery shop and listening to some old guys, not necessarily old guys, 50, 60-year-olds shooting, talking.
That's old.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
That's old for all our listeners. No, that's the ideal client for me. No, I sitting there talking to them, and I'm like, man, how unfortunate that people feel that way of, I've got to give this up. And I think it's something that hunting in general is there's a lot of new hunters now. There's a lot of people coming into this. I'm actually amazed that when I go to all these 3D events and talking to people, or people reach out to me, hey, I just picked up a bow, a year ago. I'm always like, oh, that is crazy, because hunting is very, has deep ties to family, right? I mean, my grandparents hunted and my great grandparents hunted, and that heritage kind of lives on through us, that legacy, I guess I'd say. And so that's why I started it 100%, is I was like, that's unfortunate that people need to give these things up that we cherish and that we love, and the time with family. And so that's 100% kind of my motto and theme is I always say that of a couple things. I always say, the most important investment you'll make is the investment you make in yourself. So invest in yourself. And then the second thing, more than, any gear, anything else like that, if you're not physically able to get on the mountain, whether it's an injury or rehabbing, whether you're trying to prevent an injury. So we'll say injury prevention, or whether you're just training. Like if you're not physically ready, then you're not going to be able to perform to that full to the full, advantage of everything. And then I always say that really my goal and mission is to keep people hunting into their, 80s, 90s, 100s. Like I don't see why people couldn't be shooting a bow. And I actually posted this on my story just recently because I saw something that Hoyt posted, and I do some work with Hoyt, about a 102-year-old shooting archery. It looked like down in Arizona. So I do a lot of work with USA Archery and some professional archers and Olympic archers and stuff. And so I saw that this 102-year-old was shooting, and I'm like, that's absolutely the goal right there. Is everyone listening to this podcast is dealing with aches and pains, and or they're just trying to avoid it because they want to be able to do this forever. And whether it's hunting or whether it's any sports, I do a lot of stuff with sports individuals, soccer players, gymnasts, volleyball players, you name it. Just a lot of people who are very active, and it's like that's what I'm looking for, is to keep you guys doing what you love to do. And so anyways, those are kind of the few things I say. Invest in yourself, and then there's no reason why we can't keep you hunting into your 80s, 90s until you're 100 years old, 102.
Well, that's the thing. You think
which
about
is kind of cool to think about, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is what we love to do. Why not plan to do it for as long as possible? And like you're saying, investing. Think of how much money that we put into hunting. A bow. A bow is ridiculous. $1,500 for a bear bow. Actually, it's more than that now. But and then you put all the other stuff on it, and then the gear and the clothes and we put a lot of money into hunting. And gear can make you better, but if you don't invest in yourself, you're really not going to perform. So I want to. I'm going to digress a little bit. We're going to come back to Mountain Physio, but I want to digress a little bit. How was TAC in Montana? Was it a good time?
Oh my gosh. If you haven't shot that event, whoever's listening to this, if you haven't shot that event, and Taryn, you as well.
I need to.
It is incredible, honestly. I had, I don't know, I knew it would be awesome and everything. I've shot Colorado. We're actually going to Colorado.
Next week.
It's not this weekend. It's next weekend. So we're going to Colorado to do it. And we're kind of running this circuit. We went to Texas. I've got a youth therapist, which is really cool to see working for me as well. And so it's really kind of fun to branch out that way. But anyways, I digress as well. Montana was incredible. It really was. And what made it so much, just where it's at, like big sky, big country. You're right there next to really Yellowstone, and so it still feels very remote. And you have obviously the big pines and everything. And this year especially, we had rain every day, and so it was cold. It literally, I posted this on my stories as well, that it felt like September because they had the elk calling, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the elk calling contest, and the championship, I guess. And so you heard bugles all over the place, and the clouds were low. It was raining. Like it felt like September. I was like, oh my gosh, it is cold. We were in
blood
jackets
pumping,
and
getting all excited.
But it was cool. And so it was that, and there was just a lot of good booths and vendors and a lot of good people there, and it really was good. I mean, they had fires going because it was cold. It was just a good time. It really was.
I want to do Montana so bad. So we're going to Colorado next week too. We'll have to hook up and shake hands.
Sweet. Yeah.
Sure. Just to meet you in person while we're there. And what are you shooting Friday and Saturday?
I'll shoot. I kind of want to. Yeah. Yes, I probably will. I probably will shoot Friday, and I will shoot Saturday, and try to shoot Sunday maybe.
Well, you'll have to shoot me a message. I'll shoot you a message when we get there, and we'll have to meet up and like I said,
that's what's so fun about going to these is the different locations, but also I love just shooting with just a bunch of different people too, and like you get fun groups together. So I was this last weekend. I shot. It was fun. I shot with Junior Isaac Alderman Jr. And then my other business partner Kyle Bradshaw, my brother, and the four of us went out and shot, and it was just super fun. It was just a fun group. And then we shot on Sunday with my wife and sister-in-law and brother and nephew and stuff like that. And that was fun too. But every group has its own little vibe and
Uh-huh.
feeling. It's just fun to do.
Oh, I love it. That's what's fun about it is every group you go with is so different. Like I have my group here in Southern Utah that I'll go shoot with, and then my group that goes to Colorado Tac that to shoot with, and it's just the dynamics different, but it's still just so much fun. So I'm looking forward to Tac in Colorado, but
Yeah.
Montana's one that's just kind of always been on the list. Like I'm like I just want to be up in that country with a bow, in the mountains. I mean, I'd love to be hunting doing it, but if you can't be hunting, why not go do Tac?
Yeah.
And so I'd love to do it.
I mean,
sometime.
honestly, do it next year. Sean and Monica and those guys that run Total Archery Challenge are just great guys, and it was a very fun environment. And I know it'll sell out because they're limited on space of how many shooters can be on the mountain at a time. But really plan it. I won't miss another Big Sky Tac because it was that good. So it was awesome. I was gonna say that about Total Archer. I think Total Archer Challenge. I bring that up, but I know there's a lot of other 3D events too. You got the Pacific Northwest. You got Hoyts. You've got Mountain Archery Fest. You got a whole bunch of them, and some that I've been to. But I think in general that whole idea of training where you're hunting, so in the mountains, that stuff you see. And I was commenting this year to when I was working at the Arizona Cup for a USA archery event that I was covering, to some of the hunters and shooters there of how big some of these events are. I mean, when you can really pull 3,000 or 4,000 shooters to an event, that's really impressive.
It's huge.
And not only that's impressive, you see how big it's growing. It's also, like I say, I think made us better shooters, really. And you could say that, well, now people are taking these longer shots that they shouldn't. But I think if you, I don't want to, ethically think about those things. Yeah, maybe. But when you're shooting at targets and stuff, hands down, if you can train at a higher level, for instance, if you can shoot at 90 and 100 yards consistently, then it makes those shorter shots so much more doable. And I think we're seeing that. Whereas before you had these shots at 100 yards, now you're seeing like there were targets at 130 yards. Then you're just seeing that envelope being pushed a little bit further. And because of sights and because of everything else, like people are doing that and they're making those shots more often. And so then you have people training more. So then you have more injuries, and it's great for me.
I was going to say that just creates business for you. And if there's one thing that's going to create some business, like, I've been on the mountain hunting all day long and whatnot, but there is something about Tac that just, or any, like, and when I say Tac, I guess any 3D archery shoot like that. So yeah, MAF and all those, when you do those events, dude, it's brutal. Like I come off like so we kind of double dip a little bit most days. We'll have our knock time in the morning, and then in the afternoon at like Tac, you can go back up and do another course. So we'll double dip and do 2 courses in one day. And dude, it's brutal. Like when you come off the mountain at the end of the day after that second round, your feet hurt, your all your muscles hurt in your legs, and it's crazy how much it beats you up. But again, if you train for it, it makes it a whole lot more fun.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that come to me when I'm at those events and just like, I need a little tune up because I'm going to shoot tomorrow and I'm sore, right? And so it's really fun that way to work with them there. And then I also, put specifically hunting specific programs together for people who are, who may not go to one of those events, or if they do, it's like a lot of people are like, get me a program so that I'm actually ready for these, not just Tac, but that I'm ready for hunting season. And so many people at those events are dealing with just injuries from whatever sports injuries, life, work, all sorts of things. And they kind of have they're passionate about hunting, and then to have their doctor, physical therapist, myself, right, who are also passionate about that, and who not only just passionate about it, but understand. I've been shooting archery, I guess, this year I think marks my 20th year. And so understanding bow hunting for 20 plus years and hunting and what it takes and the demands, and then using that as my degree and, doing physical therapy, and then being like, okay, now this is where you need to focus. And one thing that's really cool right now that we're really putting a big push towards is actually collecting objective data,
Yeah.
where we're not just saying, hey, we think you need to be doing this. We like this exercise, our coaches, our trainers, they like these exercises. That's what they're kind of gravitate to. It's like, no, what's the evidence? Like, what's the best evidence? Because maybe it's not this thing, maybe it's that thing, or vice versa.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic because I mean, you really got to have that information to make a good diagnosis and work with it, and
Mm-hmm.
make the right decisions to help improve these people. So I want to ask you a little bit about we'll really getting into the Mountain Physio stuff, because I mean it's really kind of sparked a light in me. Like, even as a nurse, I'm like, holy smokes, there's a lot of stuff, like even from just like a physical standpoint, like doing an actual physical on somebody to make sure they're able to do this, running labs and stuff like that. And so, from a therapy standpoint, like when you have a person come to you, say you have a 50-year-old man that comes to you and just, wants you to work with them to help improve, just their, I don't even know, ability to ambulate through the mountains and whatnot. Help me understand, like, what do you, as Mountain Physio, what does that process look like when you have that person reach out to you? Say it was my dad reached out to you, said, hey, I need some help, improving my ambulation, improving my strength as I'm, so I can hike these mountains better. I mean, can you kind of walk that process through for me and our listeners so we can understand kind of what that looks like for contacting you and doing this?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously the first step, right? Contact me. Gosh, I've got all my stuff, all my contacts and information online, places to schedule, everything else like that. So ultimately, people schedule. I contact them, reach them out to them, like, yeah, I have an appointment. We're good to go. So then when the when we have that appointment, the first thing that I want to do. So as a physical therapist, again, my specialty is orthopedics. My specialty is, I'm going to say, orthopedics, hunting, and archery, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of talk about their previous health, injury, sorts of things like that. So like kind of a typical appointment that you may have, but then where I guess I'd say that I kind of stray from the course is talking about, okay, so what bow are you shooting? How aggressive are the cams? How long have you been shooting? How many
Mm-hmm.
arrows are you shooting? And so we kind of dive into very sport specific questions and training. What are you training for? Well, I'm training for a hunt up in Alaska. Okay, what are you doing currently? So some things are similar, but also kind of try to take that sport specific approach. And as I do that, then we go through movements. And so, as physical therapists, kind of part of the National Practice Act, I'd say, is in our motto is we're movement experts. And so, really looking at people, how they're moving, and looking at the biomechanics and and really the kind of the kinetics, the kinesiology, or how they're moving,
Mm-hmm.
is what I want to look at. So whether it's squatting or single leg squatting can tell us a lot of information at their core, hips, mobility, things like that. And so I'm looking at a lot more than just, hey, what are you doing? Let's get you some exercises. Step ups are good. Put a pack on. Step ups are good. That'll prepare you. It's more, hey, let's see how you're moving. You're limited here. Maybe you have some limited strength here. Maybe you have previous injuries here. This is where we want to be. Again, these are kind of the metrics we need to be at. And now let's put a program specifically that's individualized for you. So tailor made to you to be able to accomplish that. And maybe it includes, some ruck marches for sure. I mean, I think if anyone who's training for hunting, especially out West, should be putting on a pack and should be exercising with a pack on, but they should also be doing a lot of the other, I'm going to call them, rehab based exercises and movements to target specific areas that are known to be weak and that are typically weak for most people. And so then we do that, and I'll put together a program for them, and then follow up typically anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 weeks or so.
Okay.
And so that's where my practice is a little bit different, where and this is where I think a lot of people, I guess I would say, don't necessarily understand But if you look at like a typical PT practice or so, where they say, hey, go to PT twice a week, or a script from their physician, which you don't need. There's we have direct access and the consulting that I do, so people can come to me without a physician's referral. But if on a typical physician referral, you'd go to PT twice a week for 6 weeks or so,
Right.
and they put you on you'd work with the aids, you'd work with the PT, you have, your evaluation, ice, e-stim, those sorts of things. And if we kind of look at just some of the research, a lot of that is antiquated, and it just isn't necessary all the time. And so if we really look at that, it's like a sports specific tailor-made program can really actually save you a lot of money in the long term, because you're not doing it twice a week. You're not taking time off work and those sorts of things, and you're doing it in the comfort of your own home. And so anyways, I try to help people with that too, of realizing like, a little investment now can actually save you a lot of time and money in the long run too. So anyways, that's kind of what it looks like. And I try to really, it changes for every person. That's why I'm, backed up and stuff like that, and have multiple people in the queue right now, because it's really takes time, and I really put a lot of time of individualizing it for people.
That's the beauty of it, though, honestly. And by the way, great answer. I don't feel like I asked that question the right way, but that was a great answer. Exactly what I was looking for.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. You answered it. Well, if you didn't answer my question, you read my mind and answered the question that was in my head, because that's really what I wanted to paint the picture of what this looks like. Because, and like I said, I've been in, like home health. I've been a home health supervisor, manager, all that, a good chunk of my life. And, all of our physical therapists, that's what it looks like. They get a script from the physician, the therapist, or the, assistant goes out and does, PT 2 times a week, PT 3 times a week for 6 weeks. And then you kind of reevaluate and change it from there or whatever, and I thought, okay, so that's really not going to, that model is really not going to fit in a lot of these situations, because these are very individualized. So I love how you explain how you kind of do your workup on these individuals and tailor it to them, because one of the things that you point out there is some of these guys or gals may come to you with prior injuries, and so that's going to change a lot. And I'm thinking of, sorry, my mind is going at 100 miles an hour. I start talking healthcare and I kind of geek out a little bit, but my mind's going to a guy that will be at TAC with me, a great friend of mine. We go on Colorado elk hunts, we backpack in, but he's about, he's mid 50s. He's had 2 knee replacements, and he's probably listening to this podcast and probably going to yell at me. But there's times when he's just like struggling. Like his knees hurt, or he's just not able to move like he used to. And I think, man, like he'd be a perfect candidate for you, just to have a program built up around him that he could use, for years, and then have you come back and reevaluate and change that plan.
Exactly.
It sounds like the perfect situation to have him as a patient.
No, you're absolutely, you better tell him, give him my phone number.
Yeah, I'll give him your number.
I want to be hearing from him soon.
No, I'll introduce you to him in Colorado.
In Colorado for sure, which is really cool, because I look at this industry, and like I say, I give credit to the Cam Haynes and the Dans and the, all these other people that are really pushing the envelope of training and things like that. And I give credit because it really brought awareness of what a mountain athlete is. But I think where we're missing, and this is where I'm so passionate about this, so I geek out as well on this, is, everyone could use some physical therapy. And I love working with everyone, though the people that are 16, 17, 18 years old, they're kind of just, and everyone will probably agree with this, they just they bounce back more than like a 30 or 40-year-old. Once you hit your 30s and 40s, you're like, gosh, I'm feeling it a little bit more in the morning time and stuff like that. So they need it. And a lot of times they need it more because they have just poor movement patterns and coordination, and they've got a lot of knee pain and things like that. Whereas your individuals who are like 30 to 60 really understand that, man, I can't keep up. Hydration and nutrition is very important. And so we go over that, and, mobility is very important, because we can get over, deadfall on logs, and we can carry a pack, and, we need to make sure we know how much we can, and so we can shoot and everything else like that. And so it's really important. So I really harp a lot on that of like everyone could use it. And so even if it's an evaluation, like you bring up your friend of, hey, let's put together a specific program for you, but let's really do that evaluation by someone who knows and understands this. And then we do, we follow up, whether we follow up for an appointment or maybe it's just a yearly physical, right? That would be super important. And that's where I think it's awesome to say, hey, let's do an annual hunting physical and assessment, everything else. And then, hey, this is your data. Okay, I'll see you back in a year, and we collect data. Yeah. Hey, I'm struggling with this, and maybe you're doing better in this. But so I really think it's a fun thing to do. And like I said, I've kind of I feel like changed the way that physical therapy is being delivered in this sort of spectrum. And so nothing bad about some of those other physical therapists that do it the traditional way.
Oh, yeah.
I just also think that if we kind of look at today's day and age, we need something different. And so, anyways, that's kind of what I just think it's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that's what kind of my mind was thinking about, like, as a nurse, there's also different approaches there. Like, I'd love to be doing a physical on every individual in the beginning of August before hunting season starts, because there's a lot of these guys. I'm mid-30s, and I get up on the mountain. Some days I just suck. I can't move, and I feel wore out, and it could be I've got it. I'm depleted in a certain vitamin or mineral, or maybe my hormones are off. Once you get past 30, that testosterone does something different. And so. If I could do that physical every year on these guys that are 30 to 60, 30 to 100, whatever the case may be, and be like, okay, yeah, you are a little depleted in this area. Let's do this workup. Let's change it. And, my mind's kind of thinking that way on the nursing side, but it applies to your therapy side as well. Let's rehab you. Let's build you up in this area because, you're weaker in this area, doing your data assessment and things like that. You're weaker in this area. Let's improve you here. I mean, what a great advantage. I think that a lot of the hunting industry, like I said, Mountain Ops and all these other supplements have come out, and everybody think they're superheroes with these supplements, which you might be. But there's a whole lot more to fitness and nutrition than just pounding and ignite before you hit the mountain. There's a lot of preparation that can go up to that, and a lot of stuff that you can do before that to help prepare so that it's not so miserable.
And I think one thing that the probably majority of the viewers, you and I agree on, majority of the listeners, I guess I should say, probably agree on, and majority of people really, is that the human body is a phenomenal machine that was built for this type of physical activity, abuse, whatever you want to call it, of pushing yourself to the limits and hunting. I mean, if we look at our ancestors, right? So right now I'm looking at my buffalo skull and an old arrow that I have on it, a Native American arrow. But anyways, so I mean, our bodies are built for that, but also our bodies heal, and our bodies really use movement as a way of healing and stuff. And so if you can have someone kind of guide you through the right movements, that's what's super important. And absolutely, like you said, labs are super important and all those things that we want to look at. And so if we can kind of have that all together, then gosh, it just makes a better person, a better hunter. And like you said, I mean, supplements are part of that. It's part of the industry, and it's part of having that kind of being more prepared and healthy and stuff. But if you really think of your body, like your body can really heal itself. And that's my job, and my goal is just to help you move and help your body move so that it helps heal itself. So yeah, it's super cool, man. I geek out on it.
I love it. And, it's funny. So before a podcast, I always put together like a list of questions of things that I want to talk about and ask. And we're blowing through my questions really fast, but there's some other things I want to ask you. So with like Mountain Physio, I know the answer because I've done the research on it, but I want to talk about your team because a lot of people look at Mountain Physio and they think, okay, it's just Preston, but it's really not. You have a pretty good team around you there at Mountain Physio. Would you mind kind of just talking a little bit about your team and who they are and what they do and the difference between one another and just things like that?
Yeah, no. So like I said, we've hired some therapist. So first, I guess I should probably say that my wife does a
Yeah,
lot of
good
work
man,
as well. So
smart
she's
man right
part of
there.
the team. Exactly, right. She's part of the team and does a lot of behind the works and some of the billing and stuff like that. And so and motivation and supports me in this crazy dream, I guess, of mine. And so that's part of it. And then we have some physical therapists. And so that's what's been really cool. I've had a lot of therapists reach out to me across the country, and some that I've been able to give some advice to, and others that have really said, hey, I see the value of working together. So have Jacob, who is a physical therapist, and he's down in Texas. And that's been great to kind of build up that practice there. And then I have Dimitri as well, who's we're trying to get on board and working more as well. And he's out in Pennsylvania. And then I've got a few others across the country really that are wanting to provide services with me. And so it's definitely there. And if you're a healthcare provider and thinking about, doing something like this, then I encourage you to reach out to me so that we can discuss how we can work together and everything, because I think it's there's a lot of opportunities, and that's what we're thinking about is, branching out more than just, hey, PT here in Utah. It's, let's make this much bigger.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's it.
And that's really what I wanted to get at, was like when I first talked to Jeff with Sneak Tech about you, and I kind of was under the assumption that you're a physical therapist here in Utah, and great for the Utah guys. I mean, that's awesome. They can get to you, especially the Salt Lake Valley area, Utah County area. Wonderful. And then I started to digging into it. I was like, wow, these guys kind of span the country. They're, like you said, down in Texas and Pennsylvania and, kind of all over. And so if you had somebody that was, I'm just going to throw out a place, South Dakota, that would be interested in this, is there a way for that person to reach out and get a workup with you and kind of get a plan in place, even though they're remote?
Absolutely. Yeah. We do a lot of our work virtually, telehealth that way. And a lot of ways we do it is just some consulting that way, but also, so I definitely encourage anyone across the country. I've actually had some people in other countries reach out to me as well, which has been really cool. And it also makes it challenging.
That's impressive.
But it's also really fun to see their outreach and the network grow to other parts of the world. And you're like, oh, you really see some value in it.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely, wherever you're at, we'd love to talk with you and chat with you. And whether I can help you personally, or whether we have some of my therapists helping or anything like that, if we can't provide that, at least it's worth the, hey, let's do a quick little, get to know you evaluation type deal. And then if I'm like, you know what, you do need, and so I'm not afraid to say, hey, if I can't help you physically, you need to be somewhere. I'm like, hey, let me find someone. And that's my goal, is to say, hey, we've got these people right here. Here you go, we'll help you. Or, you need to go get an injection, or you need to go, you're a surgical candidate. Let's get you in touch with a surgeon who's going to do this. And so I'm not afraid. I'm not going to say physical therapy is going to fix everything. I think it should be tried first for everyone. But if not, then, hey, let's get you in touch with other people. And so that's also partly, I'd say, my job as far as kind of directing care and healthcare that way of, hey, let's get you to the right person. Let's get you to this and that. And if I can help you, great. If I can't, then let's get you to find you someone. But if you're a hunter, archer, bow hunter, anything like that, then certainly should give me a try first, really, and reach out and make sure that we can help you. So I don't know. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll go back. I will say I am amazed at what physical therapy can do. So one of my physical therapists that I had in home health, him and I became good friends. In fact, him and I went turkey hunting in South Dakota together. We've remained really good friends. And I reach out to him all the time for stuff. And, I'll be like, hey, dude, I got a little pain here, or I'm not feeling super strong here. And within minutes, he's sent me this whole exercise plan or stretching plan or something like that, and I'll do it. And he's like, do it, this many times a day or for this long or whatever, or this many days a week or whatever, and I'll do it, and it's amazing. Like I swear you guys do voodoo with the way that you think, because like I'm thinking, oh man, maybe I tore an ACL or something like that. Like I've got so much pain in my knee, and I'll tell him like, no, he's like, let's try this for a minute. You know, let's build some muscles. Let's do some stretches. Let's do some different heat and cool and ice and whatnot. And I'll do it. And it's amazing what he can come up with. And so, his name's Justin Coleman. He's one of the best guys I know. One of the most amazing DPTs that I've ever met in my life. And so, it sounds like you're kind of on the same page with his level. So I appreciate guys like you.
Yeah, it's fun I think we think about things a little bit differently, and you need everyone thinking about things differently. But you have a lot of, strength and conditioning coaches and those sorts of things, which are important, but you also, for the majority of people, need to just be right. For us, we just think about exercises and movements, and we need different things like that to help with the recovery, with the training and stuff.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question, which may be kind of a hard question, but actually when I was talking to a couple of guys about doing this podcast with you, and kind of shared some of the information I knew about you from just doing my own research. But one of the questions that came up was like, well, how do people pay for this? Healthcare isn't cheap. We know that. You and I both worked in healthcare for a while. And so like, that one of the guys asked me, well, actually a couple of the guys asked me like, okay, so if he does this, like, how does he get paid for this, or how do we pay for this? And does insurance help with this? Because I mean, it's very specific. It's very tailored to hunting, but yet it is still therapy. So can you kind of talk us through? I know they're going to be listening to this podcast, so you guys know who you are. But can you kind of help talk us through like what that looks like as far as like payment for this?
Yeah. So I think I go back to my thought, and I will answer this on A, investing in yourself, and then B, also of just, what's the word I'm looking for? A different style of therapy. So I have this all listed on my website, and I think it's super important I think it's super important in healthcare to be transparent. Yeah. Something that we don't see very often. And so I have my pricing and everything like that online. If you're really interested, then go there and see how much things cost, because it is not, healthcare isn't cheap. And I would argue that the knowledge and expertise that I'm providing are very, very valuable. Yeah. Now, some people may say, yeah, it's not valuable. But I think I use that word value very carefully, because if you're going to, go to the doctor, or you're going to have that expertise and trust in them. And so they, need to provide something valuable. So anyways, I think a lot of my education and training and expertise that way provides value to customers. And so the way that we go about it though, right, is yes. And I have this very specific is it's a cash pay. However, that doesn't mean we're not using insurance. And so we do bill it through insurance if we can. Now that looks a little different, usually as a form of reimbursement to the patient versus them going to a provider, giving them their insurance card, having their insurance billed. And then what people don't realize, and maybe don't understand fully, is like on a lot of these high deductible plans and stuff, you're still paying. So you may have a copay, and then you may still receive a bill in the mail a month or 2 months later, typically, because everything's done at the end of the month. And so probably about 2 months later, you're going to receive a bill for physical therapy. And I'm not saying with us, I'm saying in general, 2 months later, if you go to an outpatient clinic by your house, then 2 months later, you're going to get a bill for who knows how much. And that's where I disagree with healthcare and the typical insurance-based model, because you can get a lot of people can go to, if they're going twice a week or 3 times a week, like a lot of times people push, which in my opinion isn't necessarily right, because people don't need that. They don't need to go to a clinic to just be put on ice and heat. They need the education, and then they need to go home and do it. Yeah. So if you're doing that and they do that, then they can rack up a lot of expenses that way. And so that's where I think understanding from a cost perspective and cost to benefit analysis that if you came to one visit with me, yes, certainly. If you look at my prices and stuff, you're going to say, hey, that's a little bit more money than a copay. And it is. But if you do a copay 2 or 3 times a week and you're doing that for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, then you can certainly see how a cash pay clinic like myself can be way more affordable. And so I think that's really important for people to understand. I'm glad you asked me that, because it's something that a lot of people don't understand. They just say, oh, I'm just going to go use my insurance card and I'm going to go here. Well, you're still paying for that.
Right.
And you're still paying for it quite a bit, because, and I'm passionate about this because I think insurance is necessary, but at the same time, if it were me, if we're healthy, and like the majority of the people that we see and that I see here are healthy individuals, and they just want, a little advice or exercise or things like that, they don't need to be going twice a week for 6 weeks. And I think if you go to an outpatient clinic and they're forcing you to do that, then that's also very negligent that way. And so just kind of a different way of thinking about it. And I try to sit down, and I have that all listed on my website and stuff, because I think it's very important for people to realize that and there's multiple numbers to show that a cash pay clinic is way more affordable. Now, it is a little bit more upfront, I will say that.
Yeah.
And so that's what's important to realize. But in the long run, it's way more affordable. And I think personally, I've worked up at the hospital. Like I said, I do some work up at the VA. But it's also, in my opinion, a way better method of delivery for care for certain people. Now, it's not for everyone, and I'll be the first to say that. But at the same time, for active hunters, people who are looking for sports-specific therapists like myself, it's absolutely right for you, because we can provide tailored services directly to you for what you need, without having you go see the physical therapy aide, the assistant, those sorts of things. And so you have direct one-on-one care. I give a lot of people my information so they can contact me directly. So there is a lot more that goes into that as well. So I hope that answers the question. But I think it's a great question. And I think it's very important for people to understand, because like I said, it's way more affordable. But I think that's where in healthcare we have an issue. And this is not just me. There was actually a research study done on this back in 2016-17 on transparency in the healthcare field. And it's just not, and I say healthcare, I mean all services. So MD, PT, nursing, everything. It's just, there's not transparency of how much it's going to cost to go get your labs, or how much it's going to cost to go to the medical doctor. And so if you can have transparency, how much more valuable and meaningful is that for patients to say, hey, I know exactly what I need to pay. And if I don't have the money right now, okay, I can't afford it, I'm not going to do it. Or I know how much it's going to cost, and we're saving up for it, right? It just provides I think a better relationship.
Oh man, dude, you explained that so well. I
hope I explained that well, because
you did.
I want people to understand that. And like I said, I don't want it to be, it's not for everyone, but it probably is if you are looking for specialized care, if you're looking for really to save money. And I think it really can be, but people don't understand that. And that I think it needs to be understood. If people don't understand their healthcare insurance benefits, and they think, oh man, well, I can just go pay my copay. Well, you can pay your copay, but you're also going to receive a bill because you have this high deductible plan, and you're going to receive this bill for who knows how much. I know personally how much when I was working at the orthopedic center at the University of Utah. I did that for 5 years, and it was a great place to practice. I loved the U and everything. Yeah. And I know outpatient practices are the same way, because I know how billing works and everything. And I know how much those one evaluation costs for physical therapists, and where that money's going, to the hospital and the higher ups and those sorts of things, and where the PTs are getting paid. And I'm sure it's like that with nursing, and I'm sure it's like that with MDs and DOs and everything else like that. And so if you really look at it, and one visit at a hospital is very, very expensive. I will say it's more than what I'm charging. And so it at some point I'm like, God, am I not charging enough? Am I charging too much? Right. But it's also very important to understand that as a consumer of healthcare. So all of us to say, hey, how much is this? Where is this money going? And that's why I 100% say transparency is super important. And so if people have any questions, they can look at my website, right? They can see right away, this is how much I charge and this is why, and this is what you're getting.
Yeah. No, I really, like I said, I really appreciate it. And I love how you brought that full circle because, going back to the beginning of our conversation, talking about investing in yourself and how much money we spend on our gear. I've got a KUU backpack sitting right over there. You know how much that costs because you're a KUU guy, I can tell. You think of how much that is. Well, and people spend that money like it's nothing. Like, oh no, I gotta have that backpack. Which yes, you do. You've got to have that backpack, but you also have to invest in yourself. And one of the things that I always tell people is, you either pay now or you pay later. And that goes with a lot of things in healthcare. You can apply that to dental work. You can pay for that, that small little cavity right now, or you can pay later and it's going to be a lot bigger price, or same with therapy and things like that. Yeah, you can maybe not do anything right now. You're going to save your money. You're not going to go get that physical therapy, but you're going to end up having a knee replacement or a hip replacement or, something down the road. So it's either pay now or pay later. But and usually if you pay now, it's really actually going to save you money in the long run. And that's kind of how I approached it when I was having these conversations. But you hit the nail on the head in a lot of the stuff that you just touched on. How you're saying insurance is necessary. Some days I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So insurance can be a touchy subject. You and I both work in the healthcare field, and some days I'm like, gosh, is insurance really worth it, or is there a better way? And I think when it comes to specialized care, and actually you said this, when it comes to specialized care, I think your approach and the way that you're doing this is the best way to do it, both for the consumer and for you as a therapist, as a practitioner as well. So I think that you're doing it all the right ways.
I appreciate that. I had an interesting encounter. This was a few months ago, and I don't know, it was actually, a few months ago maybe. But it caught me off guard because anyway, someone reached out to me, and it was actually kind of an acquaintance and stuff like that. And I guess they didn't really know what I did, but I've known them for years. And anyways, they're like, okay, so you accept my insurance? I'm like, yeah, we can accept insurance. We can bill through insurance that way, right? And then they ended up finding out, I guess that I'm accepting the payment first and a cash pay, and they were so blown away with they said, I've never heard that in my life. And it was kind of like an interesting, awkward little, like, well, I'll just choose to go somewhere else. And I'm like, great. That's totally fine. If you want to use your insurance and go somewhere else, great. I'm sure you'll be fine. And so it was totally fine. It was just interesting though, because, trying to explain this to people, again, like I said, a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people don't understand their full benefits either.
Right.
And they don't realize that, you're going to have to pay a copay, and then you're paying your deductible, and you're paying into it every month. And so you're paying a lot of money for this. If you could do it the other way, right? Is insurance necessary? Well, yes and no. For specialty care, probably not. Right. And it's probably better this other way, like I'm saying, where you can get exactly what you're paying for and you can know what you're paying for. And so, but I mean, a cash pay model has been around for years, forever, right?
Yep.
You go to the doctor and they'll accept cash for sure. So it's not just me that's doing it. There's a lot of people doing this model because, in my opinion, like we were saying, if we talk about healthcare, it's a better model. Now, nothing against insurance and things like that. Like I said, at times it's necessary, but at the same time, what also inspired me to do this. People ask me all the time, don't you think you'd make more money if you would accept insurance? And I'm like, it's not about that. It's not about making the money. Yeah, I need to make some money when I'm doing this, so I'm going to charge for some of my services. But, which is another actually point that I kind of want to bring up, which is kind of funny and interesting. But anyways, I was going with that I was doing home health, and you do home health for individuals, right, who've had a stroke, who've had this and that and the
Mm-hmm.
other,
Mm-hmm.
and who kind of have some poor health, who really need physical therapy, who really need services like nursing, who really need these services because they're deconditioned and sorts of things. And an insurance carrier will say, well, that's kind of too bad. You get this many visits, period. Right. And that always has disturbed me because I remember working with some certain patients and they're like, you've got 8 visits of PT, OT, speech, therapy, things like that. And
Uh-huh.
you got to split it. And I'm like, well, this person just had a stroke. They need therapy really for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Now, there's some things that kind of go into that play into that backstory. But at the same time, not for me, but from just history. And so I think that's where people are kind of confused of like a cash pay model can be very beneficial, but people need these sorts of things. And
Yeah.
so anyways,
It's a pay now, pay later. Cash pay
yeah,
now, or pay
exactly.
a huge, insurance deductible later when you're having to have,
Yep.
some kind of
And I think
surgery or something like that.
it's, I think you also, I mean, we all know this, like you what is it? You get what you pay for as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
so
Yep.
if you truly want like individualized, specialized care from a physical therapist who understands archery, bow hunting, those sorts of things, who understands your sport, then I would say, hey, look no further, right?
Right.
But at the same, like you can do that. You can go purchase a backpack, right? Somewhere else. You can purchase a really nice backpack, whatever you choose, guns, bows, all sorts of things that people are just willing to drop at the drop of a hat. They're like, they go to some of these events and they say, oh gosh, there's a something, a pair of binoculars, a rangefinder, here's $800, period,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they'll just drop it like that, or no question asked.
Yep.
But hey, here's a little investment in your health. We're going to monitor this. We're going to take objective data. We're going to do that, and
And
it's this much money. Well, I think I'm good.
yeah.
Right? That's such a backwards way of thinking of like, well, are you even going to be able to use that come 15 years from now if you're not investing in yourself right now? And so, yeah, I don't want to be on a soapbox or anything like
I'm
that.
with you. I'm with you
I
on that
appreciate
soapbox.
everyone. I appreciate this. I appreciate this conversation because I think it's great. And I think the listener should get a lot out of it because
Yeah.
ultimately it's something to really think about. If you're driving on on your hunt right now, I know how these podcasts go. I listen to them when I'm going hunting and stuff like that. Are you really thinking about this and talking about it? And like, what does your health mean to you? What value does that give? What value can I provide to you as a provider who understands this and can help you navigate that and your health and everything, and find value in your health and in this investment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate this conversation as well. And I think that this, like, again, this hits it right on the head with conversations that I've had leading up to this podcast, talking to people about, about Mtn Physio and what this looks like, and, how this can help them. So I think this, the question I think was kind of simple from them as far as like, okay, how, what does payment look like for this? But if you really unpack it, it's a lot more than that. And no, I really appreciate this. And honestly, Preston, I could talk to you for many hours. I don't want to do that because I think your wife's name Kim. Is that right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, she'd kill me if I did that. And so, but I do want to ask one more question, if that's okay, and I'll get you out of here on this one. But as I was looking at your stuff, and I kind of assumed from what I've read, but I wanted to ask you kind of like your interactions and well, not interactions, but kind of building on top of what Mtn Physio does, and on top of the physical therapy, which is nutrition with dietitians and massage and stuff like that. And I just wanted to ask you, like, what part does that play in Mtn Physio, and is that something that people could come to you for and look forward to as part of this program?
You're talking about massage, nutrition, and things like that.
Yeah. Is that something that like a little, like, I know that's kind of ancillary on top of therapy, but I think they all play a part together. Is that, or do you work with dietitians and massage therapists and stuff like that in addition, or with Mtn Physio?
We do, yes, and absolutely, that's part part of it. We want to basically go down that those services and everything like that. And so that's where I say I think having an evaluation from myself or one of our doctors, it's important to recognize that, hey, there's a lot of people there's a lot of people on this team that we can provide service, or we can help you with services, and we can also direct you to those individuals and our contacts and our networks and things like that. And so certainly I help with a lot of that stuff that's necessary under my scope of practice, and then we'll direct elsewhere if I need to and stuff like that. And like I have a lot of contacts and individuals that way. And so that's where I see my role in this in healthcare, in hunting industry right now is not just to treat everyone. I'm not to say like, hey, everyone needs me and I'm going to treat everyone. It's my role is really to kind of also help direct care. And so I've done that with a handful of patients here in Salt Lake and across the country too, of like, you know what? I said, this is where you need to go. You need to go see this individual to get this service done. Here's a contact, go. And multiple times, almost every single time they've come back and they're like, thank you so much. That really helped out a lot. And so that's where I want to be also, is just kind of to help guide and direct care. I was going to tell you a story, but anyways, yeah, guide and direct care that way. I was recently helping out a patient, and same thing. They had, what did they do? They hurt their knee specifically. That's what it was. And went through my evaluation and everything. And anyways, came up with my diagnosis and said, you know what? I really don't think it's your meniscus as much as I think as it was a cartilage defect on the back of their knee, on the patella. And I was like, you know what? I really think that it's causing you the symptoms. And anyways, we did a little bit. He ended up going to a surgeon, and right away he called me right back and he's like, Preston, thank you so much. You literally nailed the diagnosis right on the top of the head. I went there, and his same thing. He said, the surgeon was like, you know what? I don't think it's your meniscus. I think this is something else. I think it's that cartilage defect. And I was like, yeah, perfect. And he's like, thank you so much for, like, you really helped guide me. So I'm not saying that to kind of like pat myself on the back, but at the same time, I think it's really important to have those conversations. And so it's like, hey, here's where you need to go. Like, go there. And he actually just went there for, because he actually went there before me. And then he went up for his follow-up. And so, anyways, that's also my role, is to kind of help guide. And so, yes, we do have those services. Yes, we do have contacts. Yes, we do provide a lot of that information too. And so if it's something that interests you, that's my goal, is not just the physical therapy. It's not just rehab post-surgery. It's not just injury prevention, right? It's all of that.
Yes.
But it's also helping you have, I'm going to call it whole health, or, good, just whole health, really. Like everything about the health and your health of hunting and fitness and exercise and nutrition and, soft tissue work, we can help you with and make sure that you are just a healthy person going into hunting season, or just camping, anything you love to do outdoors and stuff. That's what I'm passionate about. So
yeah. Well, in the clinical world, we call it holistic care, and that's kind of where I was coming from with that. Is just that when it comes to any kind of care in the healthcare world, it really is a holistic approach. As a nurse, I can't just focus on diagnostics and labs and things like that. I really got to even if I'm trying to heal a wound or whatever. Yeah, I got to focus on the nutrition to heal the wound, and the therapy to remove the edema, or it's there. You're looking at the big picture, and so I think that's very comforting. As a clinician, knowing that that's how you work, that's how you do it. You have those contacts and those people that you can reach out to make this a holistic approach
Mm-hmm.
to helping these people as they're, trying to get on the mountain and whatnot. So, man, Preston, I really appreciate you taking the time and talking to me. Like I said, I'm kind of geeking out a little bit because I love this stuff. Obviously, it's a passion of mine, and obviously it's a passion of yours. And I'm excited about this mountain physio, man. I'm hoping that this becomes your full-time gig and this is all you do pretty soon.
Yeah, it's darn near close. I think it's there. There's a couple of things that I'm working on right now, and like I said, we got some, without divulging too much, we got some really cool, not just programs, but cool work endeavors and stuff like that, and networking together with a bunch of companies in the works. It's going to be really awesome. So I'm excited. We're thinking outside the box and coming up with some really cool stuff. So,
oh man, I'm excited to see what the future holds for you and your team, and watching your team grow and becoming what you're envisioning it to be. You mentioned earlier in the podcast that you have all of your contact information, but and actually I have your website here, but would you let my listeners know, like, because I do know there's a lot of guys that are very interested in this and would love to just reach out, get a consult, and now knowing, they now know after listening to this that, they can do it from a remote site or whatever. So what are the best ways to get a hold of you, to do a consultation, to get some information from you? Like, how should they reach out to you?
Yeah, my website's we're pretty good there. That's just www.mtnphysio.com, and that's mtnphysio.com. So mtnphysio.com, and all my information's there. There's little, I guess, boxes you click on. It'll fill out this information, or if you have any complaints, body parts you're working on, things like that. So that's probably one of the best ways. My Instagram, I'm on there a lot. Social media, I'm not on Facebook as much as I probably should be.
No one is.
There's so many dang. I probably should be on TikTok more. Who knows what? Snapchat, or I don't know. I can't keep up with all these things the young kids are doing. But Instagram makes sense to me, and so I'm on Instagram a lot. And that's the same thing. Mountain Physio. That's just MTN_PHYSIO. But my contact information is there. My email is Dr. Preston Ward at mountainphysio.com. That's Dr. Preston Ward at mountainphysio.com. And so a couple of things like that, you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to, like I said, if I can help you, excellent. If I can't help you, contact me so I can get you to the person that you need help from. How about that?
Yes.
Let me be a part of your healthcare team of, especially if you're an avid outdoorsman, a hunter, fisherman, anything like that. Let me be part of your healthcare team to really help guide you and direct you. So, I appreciate the support. And like I said, I love it. I'm super passionate about this. So we could talk about this for a long time. And I'm passionate. I love helping the individuals. It's been what, 4-ish, almost 5 years now, have been incredible. Wow. And I love it. So.
Oh, well, congratulations, man. Kudos to you for coming up with this idea. And I'm excited. I will say, I do have to say, because you kind of cut out my headphones there, so I just want to make sure everybody knows where to go. It was when you were saying your website. So it's mtnphysio.com. So if you guys, that it's a great website, by the way, Preston. I love your website. It's very easy to maneuver and orient your way around it.
Thank you.
Great stuff on there. So great job on that. But definitely check
that out. There's a lot of links and stuff. There's a lot of links, like I said, of other podcasts. There's a lot of links to articles. There's a lot of stuff there, exercises, YouTube. Just want to be able to help people out. So please check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, again, I wish you all the success. I look forward to meeting you in Glenwood Springs here in about a week and a half. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun up there at TAC, and we'll have to catch up and maybe just chat. Like I said, shake your hand, get to know you a little bit better, and introduce you to a couple of guys I think could definitely benefit from you.
I'd love it. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right, Preston, I'll let you back to your family. Appreciate you taking the time with us, and we'll definitely catch up soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. See ya.
Yep, bye.
Bye. All right. Well, thanks, Preston, for joining the podcast with me. What a fun podcast, man. That was, again, as a healthcare provider, that just, I kind of geeked out there. So I better apologize for that. But love that stuff. That was fantastic. If any of you feel like you need a little bit of assistance, we kind of talked about age and whatnot, but honestly, this applies to really anybody and everybody. So invest in yourself. Kind of what I said on the podcast, pay now or pay later. This is such a great way to improve your physical fitness and your ability to be out on the mountain harvesting the animals that you want to harvest and create the memories that you want to create. So again, appreciate Preston for jumping on. What a stud. Super excited to have him on, and hopefully we'll be able to have him on again and get to know him a little bit better. But before we jump off, just want to thank our sponsors that help make this whole thing possible: Vortex Optics, OnX Maps, Grim Reaper Broadheads, Sneak Tech Boots, just everybody that helps support us. Y'all know who you are. We have a bunch of discount codes. So Manscaped, use the code EHUNTER, EHUNTR at checkout. Get 20% off, which is huge on that website, guys. And their stuff is outstanding. Also, Bowhitch is currently running a code for us, EHunter15. So use that on your bow hitch. A lot of tack competitions, MAF competitions, or shoots, I guess I should say, for both of those. A lot of things going on right now, preparing for hunts. They're coming up. A lot of people have tags in their pockets, so look at Bowhitch, and again, that's just Bowhitch, Bowhitch, Bowhitch. Amazing product. Been using it the last little bit. It's a game changer, honestly, guys. So appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave comments. Let us know what else you guys would like to learn about and hear about, and any guests that you'd like to have on with us. So appreciate you guys. See you on the next one.